ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Sideshow Collectibles 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. And today we're taking a look at another DC Comics classic Sideshow figure, being of course Catwoman. Now this figure isn't new by any means, it's been out since 2014, but now that I'm going back and picking up some of the newer DC Comics figures, I thought why not add Catwoman to the collection as well. I am planning on doing a few mods here and there, and I'll let you know what they are throughout the course of the video. Now I picked up mine off a local Facebook buy and sell group. This figure is of course long since sold out, so if you are looking for one, try your local comic book stores, buy sell groups on Facebook, as well as potentially eBay. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here of course we have the box art for Catwoman. It's pretty straightforward. We've got this silhouetted look of the Catwoman cowl and goggles, and we also do have the Catwoman text along the bottom here. Unfortunately, we don't have any of that comic book style artwork like some of the newer DC comic figures. We do, however, have this really awesome stylized image of Catwoman herself. Now I am curious because a lot of people have said in their various reviews that the body is fairly crappy, so I am planning on doing a Phicen upgrade. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below which Phicen body you think would work best on this Catwoman figure. Now we do have a couple of comic book style strips, and we do also have another image of Catwoman. And there we have the figure herself. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the exclusive version, but if you do, I believe it comes with a cat, which makes sense because of course this is Catwoman. And here we have her. First in-hand impressions are, wow, this feels incredibly lightweight. So yeah, I do know exactly what y'all are talking about. This body feels very, very flimsy. Now you can see she comes with 1 and 2 trays. So what we are going to do now is get all of her accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything she comes with. And here we have everything that comes with Catwoman. Let's start off by taking a look at the display base first. It's relatively simple. It's the exact same style that we have seen with all of the other Sideshow comic book style figures, and also pretty much every single Sideshow figure that they've released to date. I do, however, really like the print on the top here. You've got the Gotham City Diamond Exchange with this marble-type tiled flooring, and also a weathering pass over the top. I love when they do these prints, and this works perfectly for Catwoman. Now let's talk about some of the peripheral accessories first, then we'll talk about the head sculpts. Starting off with the boots. These are the alternate boots. They are very, very soft and rubbery, and you can see the toe kicks up ever so slightly at the front there. Not exactly sure that these were 100% necessary, but I'm not going to complain that we are getting added accessories. It's always nice when Sideshow do these running or crouching style boots, and this figure is a really good example of it done well because it is pretty much a fully seamless toe. Now, could they have just included a ratcheted toe in the normal boot, like Hot Toys did for the homemade suit Spidey? Yeah, probably, but this was 2014, so I'd imagine this was the best that they could think of back in the day. Now, she does also come with a little backpack that she can wear. It does also open up, and you can store either the whip, potentially, if you really spool it up very tightly, or the diamond itself. Now, I really like the paint applications here. It does have multiple different textured sections, and some light airbrushing to give it the effect that it is an aged and weathered piece. You can also see a couple of straps so you can attach it to Catwoman. Now she does come with 2 different versions of the whip. This one does have a real material section on the end, exactly like a real whip would have, all the way down to the tiny teeny little thin tassel right at the tip there. And on the handle you can see a cat head, which is a really nice touch. Now, you'd be mistaken for thinking that this was simply a spooled up fixed whip. This one can also be used as a proper whip, except the end on this one is all made out of the rubbery plastic. I much prefer this one because it spools up nice and tight and it's one seamless piece, but I love the fact that they decided to give you this additional whip as well. Of course, this is Catwoman. She is a cat burglar after all, so she comes with a diamond. This one is starting to yellow a little bit over time, as clear plastic tends to do, but it still gets the right effect across if you want to have her holding onto it. Now, she does come with a wide array of gesturing hands. She doesn't come with a whole bunch, but they are at least very varied, and I love the way they look. They have claws, obviously, towards the tips. They are all done in these interesting style gestures. Now, she does come with two different head sculpts, one that's significantly more angry than the other. You can take the goggles off and then install them onto the angry head sculpt, and yeah, I really like the way the goggles look. Number one, because they hide up the paint applications on the eyes there. They don't look great, but once again, this is a figure from 2014, so we do have to cut it a little bit of slack. I personally much prefer this angry head sculpt. I love the teeth and also the squinted eyes, but I will be taking these goggles, popping it on the angry head sculpt, and then pulling them down over the top there. The paint applications on the skin as well do present a little bit more doll-like than I would personally like, but you could argue that it's makeup and the skin is looking really smooth, and potentially that's why they have done it. But yes, overall, I do appreciate the fact that we do get two head sculpts, and I like this one a little bit more than the standard. What we are going to do now, though, is get Catwoman herself out here and take a closer look. And here we have her standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. So far, I'm really liking the way this Catwoman looks. There are a couple of things which we'll discuss in the very next shot, but overall, yeah, that's a comic book version of Catwoman. Now, I don't know exactly which artist Sideshow are drawing from here in order to create their own version of Catwoman. I personally think it's a bit of a mashup between various different styles of Catwoman artwork, but I like that. I think it comes across really nicely in figure format. The head sculpts, even though the face paint is starting to get on a little bit in terms of age, still looks pretty darn decent, and when you look at the figure as a whole, I think it works really nicely. The only thing that I personally missed out on was, of course, the cat, so I will be trying to find a 1/6 scale black cat to have alongside my Catwoman here, because I think it's a piece that really is required for a Catwoman figure. What we are going to do now, though, is take her off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have her up close and personal. And yeah, so far, this Catwoman is looking relatively promising. There are a couple of things which I don't quite like and haven't aged very well, but the majority of the figure can be used in conjunction with a new body to kind of give this figure a new lease on life. We'll talk about that in just a second. Starting off with the head sculpt, I know you've already seen these up close, but here it is once again. And yeah, the skin tone match between the head sculpt and the body just isn't there. Maybe when this figure was new, it might have been a little bit better, but as you can see, the body is actually starting to yellow quite significantly. Looks like she's suffering from a bout of jaundice, and no, it doesn't look fantastic in hand either. So I definitely do need to swap that body with a Phicen seamless one. It'll also improve the articulation. You'll see when we get to the articulation segment, this body can't really move all that well. Now, I personally prefer the zipper to be all the way up on my Catwoman figures just because I like the more fully covered, seamless look. And hopefully when I do exchange this body for a Phicen one, I will be able to achieve that look because yes, that is a real functioning zipper. Now, at the very least, Sideshow have had the foresight to make the entire suit out of a stretchy, sort of, I don't even know how to describe this. It is fabric, but it has this sort of interesting weave about it. It's got this texture throughout the entire thing. It's not just a flat fabric like we've seen from some of their superhero figures. You can also see some panel lines are definitely present, like Sideshow likes to do, but for Catwoman, I'll allow it. I think they work quite nicely. As for the gauntlets, you can see a little buckle on the edge. They are relatively basic though, and it does work for the overall look of Catwoman here. Now, she does have this little holster piece for her whip, but the magnet is so incredibly weak that I tried to have the whip on this belt for the purposes of this very clip, but it fell off every single time. Same thing can be said for this magnet on the front section here. It is so weak that the belt just comes off with the slightest leg movement. I will have to do something. Maybe I will use a stronger magnet on the belt there. Now, I did see Dean Knight's video from 6 years ago with his first in-hand impressions on this figure, and he wasn't overly impressed by the harness sort of strap pieces that come down around her legs. To be honest, I'm not either. I may very well remove them on my figure because, yeah, they do definitely get in the way. They look a little bit out of place. Coming down to the boots themselves, I really like the way these look. You've got multiple different buckle sections and a big honkin' rubberized tread on the bottom. Apparently these are relatively difficult to swap onto a Phicen figure, so I will have to find that out when we get to swapping this figure onto a new body, potentially in a future video. But overall, even though there are a couple of things which I do need to switch out and change, this being an older figure, you kind of expect to have to do stuff like that. Overall, I'm still relatively impressed. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have Batman standing alongside Catwoman, and these two look awesome standing together. I can't wait to add a bunch more classic comic book style villains and other characters from the DC universe into my display. I already have that Joker, and Harley should be coming out relatively soon, I hope. So yeah, this line and this collection is growing rather steadily. Plus, we do have a bunch of third-party options for various characters as well. So yeah, this is going to be one collection, in my opinion, that I'm super excited to keep adding to. Now, yes, Catwoman is slightly taller than Batman, and I personally don't really like that. I think she should be a little bit shorter. And if the Phicen body swap fixes that, it remains to be seen. We'll have to wait and see once I complete that body transition. Nevertheless, this still looks pretty darn awesome with these two standing side by side. As I said, I cannot wait to see the rest of these figures come together in the line. Next up, here we have the Joker standing alongside Catwoman, and once again, she is slightly taller. But here you can see a newer style DC Comics figure from Sideshow compared to one of their older releases. I do think Joker is a substantially better figure just using modern technologies in terms of paint application and sculpting, whereas Catwoman was really good for back in the day, but the paint applications are very soft and so is the sculpt. Nevertheless, I do still think these two look really good together, and when we go about adding that third-party Two-Face and the Sideshow Harley, this collection of Batman Rogues figures is going to look pretty darn awesome. Just going over articulation on Catwoman. Now bear in mind, this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Also, this body is known for being extremely fragile, so I will not be pushing especially these leg joints to their limits. Now, starting off with the head sculpt, she actually does get a fairly decent range of motion in pretty much all directions. The arms themselves will go out to about there, and they will go forward pretty much the full way. There is also a butterfly joint at the shoulder. We do have a swivel at the bicep, a single bend at the elbow, and a regular 1/6 scale style wrist peg for the hand itself. As for the torso, I do believe there is some swivel and pivot, although mine feels incredibly stiff, and I do believe that joint is either frozen or indeed broken. The legs themselves go forward to about there, they'll go out to about there, swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee, and of course a regular Sideshow style joint for the boot itself. Now just quickly, I did want to talk about something that happened while filming this review. I do film the reviews out of order, that's why you may see this body perfectly intact in a later clip, and also in earlier clips in the video. But yeah, the body has broken, the legs are completely shattered, and the neck is as well. We don't have any articulation anymore in the neck or the legs. In fact, if I was to take the suit off, which I may as well do now, to give you a look at the body underneath, it's a little bit troublesome because you can see just the type of technologies that Sideshow used back in the day to make this suit happen. The body was kind of glued together in various places to give it a little bit more stability, and unfortunately it simply didn't work. Now luckily there's no real anatomy to show here on the body, so hopefully YouTube doesn't get too angry that I'm showing a disrobed version of Catwoman, but if we pull down the pants, the legs simply come right off because as you can see, the inside joints are completely shattered. I don't exactly know how that happened, I barely posed this thing, but you can see these rubbery sections are glued onto the figure itself. You can see glue residue up here on the shoulders, down here as well, and that's why this is one fixed solid piece. It's definitely not an ideal way to do this. In fact, I don't exactly know what Sideshow were thinking here. This is a really crazy idea to use glue on these various sections, because yes, it will hold it in place, but then when you try and move the legs, that is a tremendous amount of stress you're putting on that inner section. And of course, as the figures age, they tend to become more brittle, and then we end up with something like this. So yes, a Phicen body swap now is completely essential because the body that this figure comes with is unfortunately completely ruined. And it actually turns out that in my collection I had a figure that was using a Phicen body. Now I will unfortunately have to replace the body on that figure, but I thought let's try Catwoman with a seamless body, seeing as I've spoken about it about a million times throughout the course of the video. And now that the stock body is broken, it's kind of an essential upgrade in order to actually have a Catwoman to display. And here we have it. Honestly, this looks absolutely perfect. It fills the suit very, very nicely in pretty much every dimension, and yeah, it looks completely natural. It looks like this body was made for this suit. Now unfortunately, I can't confirm which Phicen model number I used here because, as I said, it came off an existing figure, so I'm not entirely sure. But whatever it is, it looks awesome. Now unfortunately, there is a skin tone mismatch between the body and the actual head sculpt. However, now, just like I was hoping, I can actually take the zipper and fully close it up. That way you can hide the skin tone difference if that's something you'd like to do. I personally am tempted to do it all the way up. That's just the Catwoman look that I personally prefer. But if you do want to get a little bit more spicy, you can of course pull it down. Now having the zip done all the way up, I think this is how I'm going to be displaying my Catwoman in the collection. I love the way this looks. And yes, because it is a Phicen body, you have a completely upgraded range of motion in pretty much every direction. The arms, just take a look at that bend right there, it's way past 90, and then the same thing with the legs, you can get insane crunch out of it, compared to the original body, which could barely move its leg more than that. Now unfortunately, yes, the belt will come undone, but take a look at that range of motion, that is absolutely insane. I think if Sideshow were to do a Catwoman nowadays, this is probably the body that they would go for. It far and away works better than whatever they were using previously. So fingers crossed if they do decide to do a 2.0 version of Catwoman, we get something a little bit more along the lines of this. Now I also wanted to give you an idea of a pose that simply couldn't be possible without the use of a Phicen body. Here we have Catwoman kneeling down, taking a look at the diamond she just stole, and Batman unfortunately has swooped down behind her to either take her into custody or remove the gem from her possession and put it back in the Gotham City Diamond Exchange. But being able to have her bent down, crouching like this, wouldn't be possible with the stock Sideshow body even when it was brand new because of the way they fixed and glued certain sections of the body. Still not exactly sure why they did that, but nevertheless, I don't really care. Now that I've upgraded the body on this figure, it looks sensational. Now in the outro of the video, I recorded it before the body broke on me. It actually broke while I was doing the 3 final poses. So yes, I do realize these 3 clips where I've showcased the broken body and the Phicen upgrade are out of order, but pretty much everything I said in that outro still hold true. It's just I have now done the Phicen body upgrade and it looks spectacular. Either way, I still absolutely stand by everything I said in the outro. Just wrapping up on the Sideshow Collectibles Catwoman. Now I'm sure back in 2014 this figure would have been a showstopper. And by all means, it's still a really strong release today, except for, of course, that body. Now, back in 2014, Sideshow didn't have the partnership with Phicen like they do today, so they couldn't very well have just gone ahead and used one of those seamless bodies. They had to use the one that they used on Harley Quinn and their various other female figures, and it lets this figure down, in my opinion. It looks great, the shape of it is awesome, and if yours doesn't have that weird yellowing effect like mine does on the neck and chest area, it would look even better. But it doesn't move very well, and for a Catwoman figure wearing an entirely cloth outfit, movement is kind of the one thing you will be looking for. You want to be able to create some awesome dynamic poses with Catwoman here, and unfortunately with the stock body you simply can't. However, the suit itself is great. I love the boots, I love the material choice, I even love the head sculpts, even though the paint applications are starting to age just a little bit. I also love the whips, the backpack, and the little diamond she comes with, and if you get the exclusive one, you do get that added cat accessory. Overall, would I recommend this piece if you are collecting the Sideshow Comics line of DC figures? Yeah, absolutely. She looks awesome alongside Joker. She's going to look even better alongside Harley. And when we do the Phicen body, it'll bring this figure up to a modern day standard. Now, unfortunately, she is long since sold out. However, for some reason, she doesn't go for crazy money on eBay. So if you are looking to pick one up, maybe try your local Facebook buy-sell groups or eBay as a last resort. Also, if you are heading down to the description, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.